And then I told you about the loss. That is the second point. The first point is that it is a poem about exile. What type of exile? Self-imposed exile. Nobody forces the poet to go to US and settle down there. But because he got a comfortable job there, the circumstances forced him to remain there. And so the self-imposed exile is the first point that is mentioned. And then the loss. What is the loss mentioned here? The loss of the dear and near ones, meaning he is away from his friends and relatives. His friends and relatives are all in Kashmir, in India, and he alone is in US. And then the struggle for acclimatization, that is getting adapted to a new country, to a new climate. That is another problem that is faced by a person going for self-imposed exile in a foreign land. He has to get adapted to the new country and the new climate. And then he will be always haunted by the love and beauty of the native land. See, once you move out of your mother country, that is a feeling that is very common with you and me. When we move out of the country and when we are forced to settle outside our country, then you will be always thinking about our mother country with a feeling of great loss. And we will be having the feeling, we will be haunted by the feeling that, our native land is so beautiful and perfect than the new place where you are settled in. And Shahid Ali, Agha Shahid Ali also had such a feeling. Even though he was living in US, always his mind is comparing and contrast this place with his beautiful Kashmir. And so that is another feeling that is shared by a person settling outside one's mother country. And then the nostalgic feeling is always there. And then the next point is the sense of alienation. The feeling that you are separated from your mother country. You are alienated. You are a foreign to your people. You are a foreign to your country. That is the feeling of alienation. And when you feel that you are alien, when you feel that you are a foreigner, you will be feeling that rootlessness. And that is another point that is mentioned in the poem. And again, the feeling of being an outsider. You have the feeling, here Agha Shahid Ali, always he had the feeling that he is from Kashmir, the most beautiful place in India. But he is away from Kashmir. He is an outsider. In US, he doesn't feel that he is a citizen there. And again, in Kashmir, Kashmir is his home country, but he is an outsider. Everywhere he is an outsider. He cannot adapt with the new climate, with the new place. Always the regret for having left home. That is another point that is stated. The regret for having left one's home country is revealed in the poem. And then the severe longing to return. These points are mentioned in the poem. Remember, it is a poem about exile, loss and longing. Here the exile is the self-imposed exile in the United States. And then he talks about the great anguish, agony that he has to suffer in the foreign country. Or again, the problem that he has to suffer when he got displaced to a new place. And then the sense of loss that the dear and near ones are all away from him. And then the beauty of the country, of his native land, always haunted him greatly. and he is haunted by the sense of nostalgia. See, it's a poem on nostalgia. And again, the sense of alienation, the feeling that you are a foreigner. You are a foreigner from your native place. The feeling that you are an outsider. And always the regret is there for having left his mother country. And a severe longing, that is very important in poems of this type, a severe longing to return to the mother country. And so these are the points that are mentioned in this small poem. And I told you that it's the first poem from the collection, The Half-Inch Himalayas. And the speaker of the poem, we know that it is the poet himself. The speaker of the poem, one day, he received a postcard from Kashmir. And it was a 4x6-inch postcard. But on the right top corner, there was a small picture of Kashmir printed on it. It was a small picture, small in size, but very beautiful and neat. And when he saw his mother country, he is so sad, and he is having an excessive longing to return to his mother country. But he is very much worried about the fact that Kashmir has changed a lot. He lived in Kashmir for years as a child. He studied in the University of Kashmir, but Kashmir has changed a lot. And here an indirect reference to the territorial disputes between India and Pakistan regarding Kashmir. And so now, because of the armed conflicts, Kashmir lost much of its beauty and splendor. And towards the last part of the poem, Agha Shahid Ali regrets that he will not be able to return to his country of his dream. He cannot return to the Kashmir of the past where he lived as a child. Kashmir has changed a lot. And you cannot make Kashmir of the original shape hereafter. Because of the conflicts and the disputes, Kashmir has to suffer greatly. And Shahid Ali regrets that he will not be able to go back to that beautiful Kashmir in his lifetime. See, again, when you go through the poem, you will see that the poet saying that the water of river Jalam, Jalam is a river in Kashmir. He says that it was ultramarine, it was blue in color, crystal clear. But now the water lost much of its clarity and transparency. And so in that way, every part of Kashmir has changed. And Shahid Ali regrets that he will never be able to go back to the Kashmir of his dreams. Home is where the heart is. It is clear in the case of Shahid Ali, Agha Shahid Ali. Home is where the heart is. Definitely the poet's heart is in Kashmir. And so, even after living for years in United States, he feels that his home is Kashmir. And again, it is clear that the poet's heart belongs to Kashmir, his homeland, a region in South Asia that suffers from ongoing territorial disputes among China, India, and Pakistan. And so, but even though there are problems, even though his mother country suffers greatly, he feels that it is his home. And even the memories of his mother country is painful for the poet. for the speaker